Great, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here today. My name's James Hickey. I'm a principal sales engineer at a company called Cofence. I'll explain a little bit about who we are, what we do. But we're going to be talking specifically about phishing in the new era of AI. So 25 minutes to get through quite a lot of stuff, so I will try and obviously be as clear as I can, but obviously we're going to move through this at pace. So essentially what we're going to look at is what did we really see in 2025 in terms of how the threat landscape developed with regards to AI and phishing. And we're going to look at the top 5 trends that we saw last year in the process of the work that we do every day for our customers. We're going to look at specific kind of notable phishing campaigns, right? So I like to say I brought receipts. So we got like real phishing examples to show you, which is usually people are often interested to see that. And obviously we can take any questions as well. So just to kick this off, just a little bit of background about us. We're a pioneer really in the kind of phishing defense, email security side of things. About 2008, we kind of originally developed the concept of phishing simulations, where I think we were the first company to market with a full software SaaS solution to do phishing simulations. And top right-hand corner, since then, we've delivered over 1 billion employee simulations from our PhishMe SAT platform. So we've got some experience of doing this. We also run a fully managed service for our customers. So we essentially analyze their reported emails for them, take that furball away from their SOC and handle all that for them, deliver actionable intelligence back, and remediate the threats that we find as well. So we essentially takes us about 8 minutes on average at the moment to actually analyze and remediate threats that end users have reported across every single customer that we support. So that's very fast time in terms of the point of reporting through detection, analysis, and then remediation. And last year, we identified a malicious email that all the other security technologies that our customers use had missed every 19 seconds. So it just demonstrates that despite the technology, despite everything that everybody's implementing, this is still a problem. We're still finding advanced threats in end users' inboxes, and we're essentially experts at remediating that, solving that problem. I like to say we clean up the mess everybody else leaves behind. So 2025 in review. What did we find? Well, email remains the dominant initial access vector, right? It has been for a long time. Continues to be the case. And AI-powered phishing has become, or it's enabling, the more mass-produced and polymorphic phishing attacks. And we're going to look a little bit more at that. We obviously saw that real-world events are being weaponized, right, for the social engineering. And the AI is enabling threat actors to do that much more quickly. So that isn't new. Threat actors have always done that, but they're doing it much more quickly. They're able to react more quickly to world events when they occur, and then get socially engineered messages into people's inboxes in a much faster way than they used to because of the tools that they now have access to. Phishing essentially is expanding beyond just links and attachments. So deepfake, side channels, SMS, Discord, Slack, Teams. Often email is a way in. It's a way to compromise. But once you've compromised, you can then utilize these other kind of tools, corporate tools, that many organizations use to further the attack, right, in many cases. So it's no longer just about the email. And what we did notice is that every industry is targeted. There are no exceptions. Everybody is getting hit by this. So let's look at the trends. Trend number 1, the phishing pages that the threat actors are using. So that is really a function of the phishing kits that they're using to develop the pages that they're sending end users to, right, are growing much more adaptive in real time and much more analysis aware. right? So phishing kits always had some kind of browser-based customizations. So, depending on what the user, which browser the user was using when they clicked on the link, they could detect that, and that helped them in terms of tuning the attack in real time. But they're kind of doing that now to a whole new level, right? Because they're using AI to build the phishing kits. So they're getting much more sophisticated about how they build this automation capability into the landing pages that they are creating, when they're trying to capture credentials. And credential phishing is always going to be the most likely form of phishing email that you receive. Year on year, it's 60–70% of all the phishing emails that we see are credential harvesting attacks. So here's a real example. There's two real examples. So the one on the left here, this is specifically a technique to resist analysis by your SOC, right? So the user receives a link, and they click on the link, and it says, okay, you've received a secure link. That's a lie. Enter the email address that this link was sent to in order to progress. Now, the reason they're doing that is because the SOC often only gets an IOC to analyze. They don't get the original email. It's not necessarily that they're able to understand who received this email, right? So they may not have that email address. And at that point, the SOC can no longer continue the analysis of this attack. It stops at this point. Same thing on the right-hand side, except this time you're asked to enter a verification code. So if you're the end user, you might get this email and another email with a verification code, right? Well, you have that information, so you can verify and continue. And so the threat actor knows that you're a victim. They know you're a real end user. The SOC may not have the code. So they're not necessarily, because they don't have the original email. They don't have the other email that the verification code arrived in. So again, the analysis that the SOC is trying to do stops at this point. They never get to see the C2 infrastructure. They never get to see the payload. They don't get to understand the IOCs associated with the attack. The analysis stops here, right? So these are the kind of things that they're now starting to do and that we started to see last year. And this is a result of AI being used to help them create phishing kits which give them these kinds of capabilities. So the second trend was a big increase in polymorphic phishing. So again, polymorphic phishing has been around a long time. This basically is no longer restricted to randomizing subject and sender, right? Where the email is the same, it just looks like it's coming from a different sender or it's on a different subject. This is now the ability to rapidly generate countless variations of the same email to try and completely confuse any kind of defenses that you might have in place. The key determinant about this is that the C2 infrastructure that the links go back to are always the same. So they're hosted on the same IP infrastructure, same IP addresses. It's just everything now about the emails is being customized, randomized. Different logos, different signatures, different wording, right? It's no longer just a change in subject and sender. So these are becoming more and more difficult to defend against, but much more easy for the threat actors to create because, again, they're using the automation, the tools, generative AI to create the different variations in the emails that they're sending. So, again, the scale, as the slide says, is made possible through generative AI usage. It means you can tailor-make these emails specifically for the organization that you're targeting or for the end user that you're trying to target. So these emails arrive and they look very personal to the end user, and they're also very, very high quality, right? Long gone are the days where it's a bunch of stuff in a foreign language with, bad spelling and grammar, right? And the AI has fixed all that for the threat actors. So in 2025, we found that 76% of the initial infection URLs that we identified in phishing attacks were unique, right? So it's no longer, here's 500 emails in a wave, and everything has the same link, right? So all I need to do is understand that one IOC, and I can defend against those 500 emails. I can block them, I can remove them. That doesn't work anymore because everything is now being randomized, including the URLs. They link back to the same payload, but the URLs are different, right? So in this case, of those infection URLs, 94% was seen multiple times, right? So what that suggests is the infrastructure at the back end is the same, right? It's the same threat actors, it's just the emails are completely different, but they're coming from the same source. So they're quite difficult to defend against. So again, here's a real example, right? So we saw a massive uptick last year in what we call job opportunity phishing. So end users are getting emails advertising a very interesting job opportunity. A lot of them tend to be around social media type jobs. So in this case, social media talent. And they've always got cool logos, cool brands, you know, this kind of stuff. So in this case, it's Nike, very well constructed email using industry standard kind of languages, looks very, very legitimate. You know, offering the user the opportunity to apply for social media manager type role, you know, at Nike, right? So obviously some people might be very interested in that. The interesting thing is, here's 4 other attacks that lead back to the same infrastructure, different logos. Google, Tesla, Ferrari, Red Bull, right? Cool brands, cool logos, companies people might want to work for. Emails all completely different. Very well crafted, no spelling mistakes, no issues on that front, all lead back to the same C2 infrastructure. So this is what we're finding. This is a classic example of the new kind of advanced polymorphic attacks that are being sent by the threat actors. So how do you defend against this stuff, right? It's difficult. You've got to remain flexible. You've got to be able to shift in this what is essentially an ever-changing threat landscape. You know, we always argue that your defensive tools that you're using should really be backed by human intelligence, right? So we've always believed that human beings should be inserted at very specific points in the phishing defense process. You want to enable the humans with the technology. You don't want to replace the humans with the technology. And that's what we focus on at Cofence. And essentially, polymorphic phishing means that you have to focus on the behavior of the attack, the behavior of the emails, instead of just specific static identifiers, because those are always changing in polymorphic attacks. So on the right-hand side is kind of a view really here of what we do, right, which is the idea of kind of clustering around a threat footprint. So we're not looking at specific, as I say, static indicators in an email. We're trying to look for specific things that say, this is the same, right? The threat payload, the threat footprint of this email is the same, or it has similar characteristics, and we can kind of cluster it together and we can deal with it as a cluster rather than deal with it as kind of individual emails that all look totally different. So we obviously get into more detail around that, but that is at a high level the kind of approach that we take. Focus on the threat footprint and not necessarily on individual static identifiers. Trend number 3, the AI that threat actors are using, making business email compromise more efficient and convincing, right? So this was interesting in 2025, these kind of BEC conversational attacks were the second most common threat that we observed, accounting for 18% of all the malicious emails that we identified in our customers' environments. In the past, that percentage has been about 6 or 7%. So to jump to 18% is quite a significant change. So basically, the message is that BEC attacks just keep coming, right? The AI enables these attacks to be generated and delivered at an alarming rate now, right? They're often using backends like free webmail and compromised accounts that you may compromise somebody's email account either in your organization or in an organization that is a supplier or a customer of yours, and they can use those accounts to send the BEC attacks in as well. Oftentimes you'll find that the reply to address on BEC emails is some kind of Gmail account. That's often a dead giveaway for a BEC attack, as it's using some kind of free webmail type infrastructure as the reply to. And the reply to address will not match the from address, right? It's always a dead giveaway in a BEC attack. But traditional security, systems, SEGs, gateways, whatever it might be, ill-equipped to handle these attacks, right? Often because it's a conversational phish. There's text in the email, but there's no payload. There's no links, there's no attachments, there's nothing in there that you can immediately identify as being malicious. And a lot of the new AI solutions with the social graph analysis miss this stuff, because if it's coming from a compromised account, then It's not seen as something that's outside the normal bounds of what you would receive as email. So this stuff is tricking its way past a lot of the modern AI-powered automation as well. But these attacks are becoming increasingly more precise and credible, far more effective at bypassing the current defenses and then exploiting the trust of the end users. So again, another great example here. So this one is fairly simple, but it's sort of coming in to a finance team in this particular organization. Traditional style, really, of a BEC type attack in that it's aimed at the finance teams coming from a senior leader in the organization or purporting to, but there's much more depth and quality involved in the email. It looks like a forwarded email, somebody doing a capital loan from the company. And at the top, it's like, hey, forwarding you this request, can you get me this information? And it's specifically requesting something called AR aging data. I don't know what that is. I doubt the threat actors know what that is. But if you're in finance, you might know what that is. How do they know to ask for that? Because AI is telling them that that's what they should be asking for, right? So AI is specifically helping them create these emails to be more credible and therefore, gain the trust of the user and potentially compromise them much more easily. So you see a lot of these, what are essentially much higher quality, more credible BEC attacks that are coming in. Again, traditional defenses aren't seeing this stuff. Trend number 4, the use of legitimate files and specifically remote access tools, right, that have become primary weapons. So we saw an absolutely enormous increase in the use of remote access tools, 900% increase, which is, it's pretty significant, right? So remote access tools are essentially being used to deliver, all kinds of things, right? The thing is that these tools are often perfectly legitimate tools that are used by IT teams in organizations. So if you're a threat actor using these tools in an organization, you're avoiding detection because you're not necessarily pushing traffic across the network that is in any way different than what you might expect your normal IT team to do. And of course, remote access tools give you access to do pretty much whatever you like. So this is an interesting example of an email that delivers this kind of thing. This was the most common theme last year, delivering these legitimate remote access tools to basically start the infection chain. And it's an event invitation, right? So people love being invited to stuff, right? Who doesn't want to be invited to the Christmas office party or whatever it might be? Of course, people want to click on this, right? Because they want to get an invite to the party. So as soon as they click on this, it's a link to a malicious site or an attachment that prompts a download, which ultimately installs ConnectWise, which is a remote access tool, perfectly legitimate. No one's looking for it, no one's blocking it. But when you fire up the tool, it connects back to the threat actor's server infrastructure, not your defined support team infrastructure. So again, huge uptick in this, and this kind of email is the most common theme last year for delivering these types of attack. So, why are these such a threat? Well, threat actors love this stuff, right? The valid signatures on the files, because it's something that many organizations are already using. The traffic is often allow listed because, again, it's something that people are using. The lookups of the traffic by the SOC will appear legitimate because, again, it's not doing anything that your IT team isn't already doing. And sometimes the IT teams will use personally preferred routes without, organizational positions. So one of the things you can do is make sure you've got control over remote access tool usage within the organization. But once you infect a computer with this, you have complete control, right? You can do whatever you want. You can install backdoors. You can get, harvest credentials, install ransomware. Whatever you like, right? Oftentimes they'll use a rat tool to gain access, and then they'll install another rat tool, which is their own rat tool, to do something else, right? So there are different things you can do once you've compromised, someone's desktop. And interestingly, any EDR solution won't flag this, right? Because the file is completely legitimate and the traffic is already allow listed, right? So your EDR solution isn't going to see this on the end user's desktop. Trend number 5. So just the last one really, which is a kind of a note that we saw a big increase in the previously underused top-level domains. So a top-level domain is essentially, where is the link sending the user to, or where is the landing page being hosted. So there's a massive increase in the .es top-level domain. It went from number 56th place in 2024 to 3rd in 2025. Difficult to say why that is, other than it's just underused. So threat actors have started to use it, more often. Potentially means that no one's looking for it, no one's blocking it. It's just something that obviously they can host stuff on. Prime example here. This one's very interesting. So this is a fairly simple email, but it's actually quite clever. It's the threat actor saying, hey, you didn't complete your cybersecurity awareness training. Please click this link to get it done, right? I mean, it's brazen, if nothing else, right? But as you can see, it's a kind of a weird URL, but it's using a .es TLD. And if you click on that link, it takes you to a very bog standard Microsoft login page, or what looks like a Microsoft login page, and that is also hosted on a .es TLD as well. So sometimes the hosting infrastructure can be a giveaway, right, to whether or not it's it's something that's potentially malicious. So by the way, we actually we capture a lot of these emails and we post this stuff up. We actually have a section on our website. Which I think is the phishing threat database. So we'll find messages, and we put up which technology we've seen it getting through, and essentially what type of attack it is, just to kind of show people. You can just go onto the website, cofense.com, find the phishing threat database, and have a look at a whole bunch of different phishing examples of stuff that we're just finding in our customers' environments on a daily basis. So just to wrap this up. You really got to try and remain knowledgeable about what's going on if you want to fight this threat, and vigilant to those threats, right? You've got to have a way of being able to capture this stuff. Access to high quality intelligence is critical to success. So I say that obviously because we curate a lot of intelligence, right? So we've built a very specific and proprietary way of analyzing enormous amounts of emails, finding the malicious stuff, and then curating that as intelligence, both in terms of finished intelligence reports and obviously IOCs, which we can utilize in our solutions and services, and as customers can subscribe to as a service as well. But it's rarely safe to state, with any level of certainty that AI is in fact responsible for creating an email, but there are often giveaways, trends that are kind of present now that were not present before, which are generally about, the polymorphism, the size, the scale, and the quality of the emails that you're starting to see, because AI helps them do that, and it helps them do that at scale. Broad trends, such as customization beyond expected time frame by humans, again, likely to be AI generated or automated. But essentially, I think the key message really, and this is the key thing in phishing defense, really from our standpoint, is foster and build a reporting culture in the organization. Figure out what you need to do that, and really make sure your end users know that in a situation where they're unsure about a particular email, they can just report it at a click of a button, right? So again, we provide a button to do that, and we provide all the analysis, the tools to do that, and in fact a managed service to do that analysis on our customers' behalves. But it works because you've built a reporting culture, and your end users know that if there's something there they don't recognize, it looks a bit strange, they just press a button. Now, if it's malicious, they'll get a thank you. If it's non-malicious, they'll get another thank you, but it will obviously tell them, the result of that as well. So we help close the reporting loop to make sure we keep the end users, involved, in the process, right? Keep them engaged in the cybersecurity efforts that our customers are trying to engender. So that's it from me. more information, we have a blog on the website. We run webinars talking about this kind of stuff on a fairly regular basis. You can find me on LinkedIn there. So I do post fairly regularly around what we do. And we do have a booth down in the exhibition hall. My colleague Jürgen at the back there is with me today. We're with our partner ECTCOM. And we'd be more than happy to talk to you about any of this stuff, have a conversation about how we can help you defend against the threat of AI-powered phishing. Thank you very much.